surprisingly, a few people do. But yeah, that I was having a crisis 2 minutes ago with fresh brewed coffee. I might fall over if I don't. I'm gonna run go grab that. But I'm stoked to see you on the call. So I'll be right back.
Sure.
Now, just as we get started with the meeting, I just want to be honest and forthright with everyone. This, like at first blush, this looks like a Starbucks cup, but turns out it's just some generic plastic piece of crap. But it's coffee, so anyway, good. Well, enough of me messing around. Hey, it's it's Wednesday, June 17th. Thanks everybody for coming. Just to make well, Mikhail, do you go usually by Mikhail or do you go by Mike or?
For me, it's similar, but it's usual for foreigners. Mike simply. Well, I prefer Mike in this case.
Yeah,
because actual name Mikhailo. Oh, Mikhailo. It's much more complicated. So it's no matter if Mike, fine, it's okay.
Nice. I see what you're saying. That's the most polite way that you can say that you prefer not having your name butchered. You'd rather just people say Mike.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. By the way. Oh, Mike. Actually, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to the other folks on the call, if you would, just to.
To be honest, I'm not really sure what I can say because in common, I'm a developer, software developer. I'm coding with Angular and some backend on Nest.js and so on and so on. But my project recent year in my project, I used to operate with Service Mesh, which is based on Istio in Kubernetes, and this is why I'm interested in solutions like yours.
Well,
and I used to manage it currently. Probably next month I'll be transferred to infrastructure command out of coding. And
okay.
It's now it's maybe as my personal achievement maybe.
Yeah, totally. Is something of a promotion in that regard then?
Maybe something like this. I'm not really sure. But I was surprised that you'll be transferred because of your successes in infrastructure. You will be transferred to infrastructure team. Okay. I don't know. Is it promotion? I don't know. I'm not sure, but.
Congratulations. You've been working hard, doing well. Hey, here's some more work for you.
Yeah, and I saw this something interesting. I want to check this closer.
Yeah. You mean in Meshery, or you mean in your?
In Meshery. In Meshery.
Today's a great day for you to have popped in. So I promise on the next calls, if you join it, any of them, we won't make you reintroduce yourself a bunch of times. Like you won't be the spotlight. So it's the first awkward moment. But
I'm sorry. Excuse me. In 30 minutes, I should leave you. But
yeah, thanks for saying. Yeah, I won't take personal offense. Today's a great day for you to join. So everyone, please, meet Mike. It's nice that he's here. Next.js is part of a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, actually. Dina was going to say hi, I think.
Yeah. Hi. I'm in the Bolt car, running from the work to repair my e-scooter because I need to go to see an apartment. And in the meantime, I want to participate on this because I like to actually start. And as a summary, can you pair with someone who I would love to be 10% of your guys that are already contributing I'm just so lazy on setting up what I need to set, my signature, blah blah project, you know.
Yeah.
So I would like to start with those two issues. The one that looks simple for learning Meshery, and the one that is new, which seems challenging, motivating, whatever, more driving for me. So yeah, just to to have it, to have a point of start. I'm bad on being taught by others, but I'm making improvements. Yeah, I
Good.
don't that's what I wanted to say, but I could have also said it in private, but I took the advantage of the moment.
No, Adina, actually, yeah, Adina, it's funny. Like almost all the things that you do are things that I try to encourage others to do, which is I'm very glad that you mentioned just that about like really getting your first foothold on an interesting portion of the project. It's something that's of critical concern for us because we have a lot of folks come through and we're very pleased when they do, and a lot of times they don't. We really try to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, but also that people find an area of interest, and it's really easy for them to find an area of interest because there's so many technologies that we cover. But if a little bit of extra time isn't given to them up front, a lot of times they they don't find that foothold. And so there's actually a program, and I'm glad that you mentioned this, Adina, because it's a good thing to talk about. Well, in context of Mike, who's joined, but also Tanuj, this might be your first time on the call as well. So good for you to hear. And I think, Tanuj, you already heard about this Meshmates program, which is to say that there are a few individuals in the community who've been here long enough that they're able to and willing to pair up one-on-one with a newcomer to help them get familiar with the projects, walk them through the different repositories, help them really like the goal of pairing up with a meshmate is to familiarize with the product or projects, identify an area of interest for you, and basically go through setting up your IDE and building Meshery, kind of well, like running Meshery as assuming that it's Meshery that you end up, not you, Dina, but in general that person ends up focusing on. Running through it as a user, getting familiar, then building it, making sure your ID is okay, and then kind of getting your first PR. That's sort of what this Meshmate program is about. And Tanuj, you're a great example of someone who just paired with a Meshmate, Kush. Kush is, for better or worse, Tanuj's Meshmate. Tanuj, do you want to do it? Mr. Agarwal, do you want to do a quick introduction and tell people about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tanuj Agarwal. I'm from India. I recently joined the community 2 days ago, and I came to know about this community from Kush himself.
Very good. Okay. Very good. Yep. And then for those, so Tanuj, actually, you'd recently done some video animation, some work that I'd seen that was pretty neat. I think you're going to pick up the challenge of trying to create a short intro jingle for these meetings, actually.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was just looking around and I found some templates I will show you after.
Nice. I'm excited about that. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Into this meeting, Tanuj, I'm going to mute you, and please don't take offense. Just there's just some background noise, but anyway, great. All right, good. So let's dive in today. We've got a few topics to cover. The first one here is actually more process. I was just chatting with Mike about the various meetings that we have and the notion that this one has run a little bit like a stand-up in the past that has been like that. And we're hoping to get a little bit back to that such that such that if you're working on something, this is your opportunity to kind of show it off, get some feedback. If you're stuck somewhere, to ask about that, or if we've got new and upcoming work, to something like the Meshery operator, to kind of cover that and discuss it at large, so that folks can, so that everyone can participate. So on that, only I think. So apologies, Shubham, but because Mike is he's only got 30 minutes. I'm gonna prepend. We're gonna put Kush's work and the demonstration of it up front, because it would be wonderful to get Mike's opinion. Well, everyone's opinion, but it might be of interest to Mike as well. So with that, Kush, do you want to take over and tell people about what you've worked on?
So I'll just share my screen.
If you give them a little bit of context too as you do it, that would be great.
Yep. Okay, so the issue we are talking about here is this one. We have to expose the load generator settings in the UI, so that we can specify the performance test defaults, and when user will submit these defaults, so in this performance UI, the defaults will load from the settings, the concurrent request, queries per second, duration, and load generator. These four are the attributes which you will be able to set from the settings, and this is the UI which will give you the ability to set the defaults. So this was the PR. This PR involves, like, there were some missing handlers for the GET request. There were some errors in the handlers which was already there, and a complete new UI for the settings performance default. So I'll just quickly show you a demo for this right now.
Then let me ask this, just because there are a number of us that are relatively new on the call. Does everyone have the right context for the enhancement that Kush is making here? My hunch is that it may not be quite obvious.
So I'll just give you a demo from the server. So here is the performance test UI, and here we have these following fields: concurrent request, queries per second, duration, and load generator. So what you need to do every time is, whenever you want to run a performance test, you have to specify a test name, the service mesh type, URL to test, and these following four fields we thought to have some defaults for it, so that user can set these defaults from settings, and whenever user loads up the performance test UI, this defaults will be loaded from the settings. Like, this is the UI in the settings. So if I will enter the details here, so this details will be preloaded in my performance test UI. Does everyone get the context about what enhancement we are talking about?
That helped me. I do. I'll pick on Shubham and ask Shubham, does this, or Ashish, does this resonate? Do you guys know what Kush is about to show?
Yeah, like the UI changes in performance test. Like earlier, we have less number of attributes. So yeah, I can see the changes.
Nice. Yeah, and we've Kanishkar and others have helped expand the capabilities that are presented to a user for running a performance test. And the more of these fields that we get, the more sophisticated the tests become. And it's our perspective that as people go to run tests day in and day out, that it might become tiresome for them to have to enter in all these details each time that they want to run the test. And it might be that they always want to use WRK2 as their load generator, and they always want to send 6 queries per second. And so since Kush is signed in to the Meshery, he should be able to then persist his preferences. And so that's what he's about to show, is a new tab in the settings area to let him persist these preferences.
So
Yeah,
right now,
great.
so I'll just show you a quick demo right now. So as you can see right now, the settings which are persisted over here are 6 concurrent requests, 6 queries per second, and duration is 6 minutes, and the load generated. So these are the defaults which I had already set it while testing. So I'll just change them. 4 concurrent requests, 23 queries, and 7 minutes. I'll select my load generator as Fortio. So just shows right here.
Okay, very good. When you go back to the preferences, back to your settings. And
Yep, they are not persisted right now.
Okay. Okay, very good. I'll make another very obvious comment that you probably will roll your eyes at when you hear it, and that is that, well, there are new fields, right, for us to let someone configure. Those might make sense to be able to pull into that global preferences. It's worth a discussion as to whether or not those do make sense. I think that my perspective is that they generally do. But I'm going to say more on that in a second. If you go back to preferences, back to settings, and I need to make sure that I use the right vernacular here, because I think we're about to make a distinction. On the performance tab, great, we have one item that if we could change this maybe to an on change form submission, like, so instead of having to submit preferences, that just as and when someone modifies a field, that action persists or has the effect of being saved. I believe that's the same UX that people generally experience across the other tabs as well. If that makes sense.
So I'll make this change to persist what are the current performance defaults.
Nice. Good. So, and just, I guess, so does anyone else have feedback for Kush on the behavior of this new feature? That whole performance tab is brand new.
I can say this was a good feature. If we can have good update, yeah.
Thanks. Good. Well, Kush, do you want to just kind of foreshadow to the group the next enhancement that you're going to do?
I'm not able to hear you properly.
Yep. And then, Adina, did you want to give feedback?
Not a feedback. I'm not sure I understood what it is about. It's about like you run a normal performance test to an app, then you have the request header and and I don't know, the number of tests that you want to execute. Or this is, I don't know where to put this. It is for app. It is for our app. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it is for, yeah, Kush, do you want to explain it?
So like whenever you run a performance test, you have to feel all of these fields. So there can be situation like I want to make this concurrent request always set to 5, queries per second always set to 2, and the duration of my load test always 1 hour. And I always want to use the 40 load generator. So for me, it might be a little bit irritating to always set up this defaults, or I mean there should be a feature where I can specify this default so that every time I run a performance test, all of these defaults should load from what I have specified. So what we have done here is we have given users an ability to describe the defaults. If they have described the defaults in the settings performance tab, so they won't have to enter those values again and again, and these values will be persisted performance test UI until unless the user wants to or he wants to edit them.
And then, very good. And then, actually, to Adina's question, let me pull it even further back because her question was a bit more broad. So there's a link.
Yeah, it's against what we run this test. It's against an app. It's against our own app.
Yep. Yeah,
Maybe I didn't understand the context.
Yep.
It looks really cool. I mean, it's easier than set up in JMeter or other load tools.
Exactly. Yeah, Adina, you've got precisely the right context for what this functionality is most similar to. It's similar to a JMeter. It's similar to, and to help answer your question, I'm just going to go to the Meshery docs on the architecture page, and I think that this will give you the context you're looking for. That is that the short answer is that Meshery is going to generate load against an endpoint. The common use case is that endpoint is workloads that are running on top of a service mesh. So it is the user's workloads, not Meshery. Now, technically, Meshery is able to generate load against any endpoint, whether that endpoint is a workload that's an application that's running on top of a mesh, or whether it's an application or a service that's running off of the mesh. And actually that makes for a very good comparison for people, very high level, like, hey, here I'm running my services on Kubernetes, plainly. Let me generate a load test and see that Meshery produces a bunch of statistical analysis. And then now let me deploy my services onto a mesh, and I'll do that. They'll run the same test, and in broad strokes, they'll just compare the differences between the two. And that's actually why Meshery has the UI for comparing two charts to each other.
So this also kind of confirmed to myself that Meshery it's also a good tool for running performance. Just for this.
Yeah, it's one of the the performance testing stuff.
Use cases, maybe use case. Sorry, maybe we didn't intend it, but yeah.
No, yep, totally. Yeah, while Meshery is born of service mesh land, this particular piece of capability isn't constrained to service meshes. Like, yeah, this might just be a better version of JMeter for people, or whatever, instead of just using WRK by itself or Apache Bench by itself, that they might want to use this tool because it helps facilitate interaction with Kubernetes, setting up your tests, running them, persisting the results, doing statistical analysis on the results, which are, I don't know if it's makes sense for us to kind of demo some of that now, but yeah, it maybe just for the, Tanuj and Mike and you, Adina, that it might make sense to show what it looks like. to run a quick test, see the results, and then to be able to compare those results over time. Those capabilities work irrespective of whether you're doing things in Kubernetes and whether you're running a service mesh or not. So here I've signed in as a user. This user has run tests in the past. And I don't know if the test results might have been removed, which is unfortunate. So I don't think I'm going to be able to show it to you. Anyway, yeah, Adina, good point.
Yeah, thanks. I have my answers. Thank you. More than I needed. It's okay.
Very good. I'll briefly say this, that that there's a little bit of a nuance that's happening here that I don't know it has occurred to everyone, but I'm actually rebuilding Meshery right now, be able to demonstrate this to you a little easier. So when you're using Meshery and you go to the settings area, which I'll show in just a minute as soon as the build is complete, the preferences that you're setting are in context of the user that you've authenticated as. When you authenticate to Meshery, it's then able to persist your preferences. And so my local build has finished. And as a user, I'm able to go over and look at my preferences. There's preferences about whether or not I want to help the project by sending back my result sets anonymously or not. Those are my user preferences. My Meshery settings for how Meshery works are here. And some of these, essentially all of the settings that we see inside here, the /settings URL, these are going to end up being global settings for a given Meshery deployment. Meshery is a multi-user tool, right? Many users can authenticate to it, use it, run different tests at different times, orchestrate different or manage different service meshes. And as users sign in and use the same Meshery instance, that's fine, that's great. Now, the settings that are here, though, if one user changes the settings across these 4 tabs, that's going to impact the experience that any same Meshery instance has. So these are global settings. And right now we don't clarify this very well in our code and in the UI, but we will. So these are global settings. These are individual user preferences. There aren't many of them today, just 2. So these are per user. This is for all users of them. This is per Meshery instance for all users. Now, at some point, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we're going to be able to save these global defaults. We're going to have, we're going to be able to let people set their performance test settings, which is what Kush is demonstrating. We're going to be able to maybe let people globally turn on or off the anonymous sharing, or the sharing of anonymous performance results, and many of the other settings. But on a per user basis, individual users may have their own preferences that might make a whole heck of a lot of sense to override the global defaults. And so this right here will be a topic of conversation and discussion in some of our forthcoming meetings. So good. So a little bit of foreshadowing there. Any other feedback for Kush?
Yeah, I have 2 questions, like 2 doubts, I can say. Okay, I forgot the questions. Let me do it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So,
I can share.
can we save? It was long demonstration, so I forgot.
Sure.
So I was saying that can we save the individual settings, the load generator or the concurrent request or queries per second, or we have to just save all the 4 attributes at once? You got my point?
Yeah, totally. And so this Shubham, you set us up, you teed up a conversation perfectly for something that Kanishkar and Kush and some others are looking at and have kind of designed a little bit, and that is a related concept between the thing that we were talking about with global settings, great, user preferences, great, but now there's something else that's kind of missing, and it's exactly what you're calling out, Shubham, and that is that. Oh, wait a second. So let's go through a scenario. I'm running a mesh. I have an app. It's the soak test for fake Starbucks coffee that I have here on my desk, and I run that on a particular mesh, and blah blah blah. That I always run this one with these settings and such. But I also have another test that I always run. It's a capacity test for such and such and such, and I've got 15 tests, right? And at some point, well, hey, just having a global setting, that's not enough. That isn't horribly helpful. So the design, there's a feature enhancement that is really referred to as a performance test profile or a performance test configuration, like basically the ability to name this configuration that I've typed in, save it, and be able to recall it. So that I can have a bunch of different types of tests that I've defined, be able to recall, pull those back up very easily and just execute on an ad hoc basis any one of those profiles. Next step, and this is in part why we've been having discussions with Litmus Chaos and Chaos Mesh, is the next step here is to facilitate scheduling of those performance tests. There's use cases around scheduling a recurring performance test to be able to manage your performance ongoing. There's use cases that we have today for just ad hoc invocation of a test. Great. There's also use cases for programmatically invoking a test, which is why Meshery server has a REST API. And Meshery CTL, the command line interface, that you're able to invoke performance tests from Meshery CTL. That REST API and that CLI, Meshery CTL, is what we expect many teams, many organizations will use as they build Meshery into their CI/CD pipelines. Because performance it should be part and parcel to a new feature release or a new build, right? People want to run performance tests during the build process. So yeah, great feedback, Shubham. Is that what you meant?
Yep.
Nice. Any other feedback for Kush?
Excuse me, I have one thing to say. On the performance tab, there's the duration field. It has only input value, but as for me, it's not actually useful. I would prefer here to have something like a drop-down list with predefined values, like 1 second, 2 minutes, and 1 hour, and so on. It will be, I think, it will be more useful, as for me.
That's wonderful.
Small UI.
Yeah,
small UX change. Yeah.
Yeah, let me. That's wonderful feedback. Let me clarify and see if this is the optimal interface. So, in this UI, just as in this UI here, as an example of maybe how to improve upon what you just said, Mike, is in the performance UI, right now there is no drop down. It kind of forces the user to sort of look at the tooltip and take a minute to figure out, okay, well, it looks like I could do like a 1H. I guess that means 1 hour. I agree. But so instead having a drop down, a pick list, like, oh, okay, it's very clear, that these mean this. Now, granted, the pick list could not be, it could be super long and maybe not granular enough.
No, just some common values and leave it possible to input manually value.
Totally. And so here's maybe the best of both of those worlds. I was going to ask, I wonder if this makes sense to you, that if this is the duration drop down or the duration field, and it has a drop down that says, 1 hour or 1 minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, it has some common, choices, but that it also still has the ability for someone to type in.
Sure, of course.
Okay. I think that's wonderful feedback. Does anybody, I'll ask it like this, does anyone disagree with that suggestion?
No, it will basically save a user's time, I believe.
Yeah, I could see people fumbling over it right now. I mean, just as not always the best user myself, I don't always look at the tooltips and sort of, I wouldn't always know. I might just hit it 5, like thinking that was 5 minutes or guessing or something, and it would probably fail on me. So
that's all right. I should do. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. That's great. Fair enough. All right. Head on back over to the meeting minutes. I think, Shubham, you had a couple of topics to bring up.
Yeah, I will present my script.
Beautiful.
If you're presenting, it's okay. Like, I think I might not be able to present.
Okay, got it. All right. Just tell me where to click.
You can click on the first link or issue. So in this, please go down like, and yeah, you can open the PR reference, like the Assis,
Right.
maybe Assis have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I have my eyes not. So just kind of the,
Yeah, earlier also you have commented that we don't need to remove only slash graph. We need to remove anything after IP and port. So yeah, I think this is already done, and this also has been updated in the docs also. Like, I created the PR in the doc and also updated that. So I don't know how you face this error, like.
Right.
Because if you follow the doc, you have to type only IP and port, not slash graph in the end.
Right.
I think it is in lab 4 of workshop repo.
Totally.
You can verify that.
Okay. I guess I'll ask this. I can verify it right now on the fly. If anyone is interested in sort of seeing how Meshery deploys Istio and Meshery can connect to Grafana and Prometheus, and we can kind of verify the behavior.
Yeah, let's give it a try.
Okay. All right. Yeah, good. Maybe we'll knock out a couple birds with one stone here. I need to come up with another metaphor, by the way. I've been saying that one a lot. It's starting to get old. All right. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and share my whole screen because we're going to try to do a couple of things at once. So let me the text is never big enough. And so let me just make it full screen and make it obnoxiously huge. So here I am, command line, through CTL system status. I am running, Meshery is currently running on my system. It's running on Docker desktop in the set of 8 or however many, 7 containers. And so I'll do this because I'm lazy. I'll start Meshery. Let me Let me log out and log in as my user. Apologies, let me sign in as my user. And yeah, that didn't exactly work. Maybe I should have just signed in as the other user. So hold on. Sorry, I thought this was going to be easier than this. My browser is confused as to who I'm signed in as in Twitter. It would be nice if I'm signed in. I guess technically I don't need to be signed in to go walk through this demo. So all right, so the feature that, or the bug slash feature slash piece of functionality that Shubham has is identifying and kind of wanting to confirm is complete and can be closed out is one around Meshery connecting to Grafana and Meshery connecting to Prometheus. So in my environment, I am running, it looks like I'm running Istio already. Istio is probably I'm running Istio already, which should be fine. And to deploy Istio, I just go over to Istio, click on the plus sign, click on deploy Istio with the latest, with this configuration. So I've got Istio running. I don't have a sample app. I'll do book info just because it's quite familiar to me. So we'll come over and I'll make the font a little bit smaller. Let's do another look at what all pods are running. So it looks like book info is up as of 14 seconds ago. I don't know why I deployed book info. It's not actually that helpful for this demo. But rather depending upon when Meshery deploys Istio, it deploys Istio's control plane. And part of that is the fact that a small instance of Grafana, that's not it, and a small instance of Prometheus are deployed. So here's Grafana, and Prometheus is also deployed in the Istio control plane.
Last Istio system.
Oh, thank you. And these are the two. Now, those are running as services. Those services are not, okay, and they're running as services inside the Istio control plane inside of Kubernetes. Now, I'm running Meshery on a different network. I'm not running Meshery inside Kubernetes. I'm running Meshery on Docker on a virtual machine outside of that network. So one of the steps that I need to do is to expose Prometheus and expose Grafana so that Meshery from the external network can make some API calls. And so in order to expose Prometheus and Grafana, what I'll do is edit those services. Inside the Istio system namespace, I'm going to edit the service Prometheus and change its network configuration from a type cluster IP to a type node port, because that's what's going to work well for my local deployment. And we'll just go ahead and very briefly do the same thing for Grafana, for the Grafana service. These will help get external facing port numbers that then Meshery can use to connect to either of these two services. So let's do Prometheus first, actually, because it was the example in the issue. So the external port now is 32522, and I should be able to, on my local system, bring up my local system's IP address. And I know everyone probably can't see that, but just I use the same port number to get to that instance of Prometheus. And so I'm on that instance of Prometheus. The URL here, I'm just going to go ahead and grab that URL, which you'll see what it looks like. So right now in my Meshery instance, you can see it like Meshery is yet to connect to Prometheus. It doesn't know where Prometheus is. Well, so let's go ahead and configure that. I come over to this screen, and actually there's an enhancement to be done here. When I click on configure Prometheus, ideally I'm landing here on this Prometheus subtab. So I think you had enhanced Meshery not too long ago to provide deep links into each of these tabs. There's a small enhancement if we could from these two buttons. When someone clicks on configure Prometheus, ideally on the sub tab level, on the sub navigation level, that they would go to the Prometheus tab. So I'll paste in this URL to connect to Prometheus, and we reach it. It's configured. That's ideal behavior. So that's good. And functionally, that's what I think we need. I think probably without me saying it, Shubham, you're probably seeing where we might be able to enhance this a little bit, because really, like, none of the rest of this matters in order for.
Can you remove class graph and everything and test once?
Sure. Nice. So that's good for Prometheus. But so the enhancement request there is to trim anything after the port number, because ongoing in terms of Meshery's raw connectivity to Prometheus, the rest of that configuration doesn't, is immaterial. It doesn't matter. So if we go back and look at this same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. For Grafana, let's do it. We'll go back to my local IP address. You'll use the Grafana port. And I'll just grab the URL from here. Like, Grafana is up. So I'll go back, and we're now going to configure, just kind of taking you guys through it again. We're going to go ahead and configure connectivity to Grafana. Our Prometheus connectivity is there, and that's good. And here's the URL that was given to me from the dashboard. There is no API key by default in the configuration of Grafana that Istio deploys. And so good, we get connected, and there's actually a couple of issues on this page. So one is really just the same thing, Shubham, is just we want to trim off any of the rest of this. But the connectivity works, the functionality works, that's good. This is just a minor, cosmetic enhancement. There's a larger bug here, though, and that is that if you're noticing, we've got a good connection to Grafana. Fantastic. In Grafana, people invest a lot of time setting up dashboards and and setting up boards and panels and various things to track and look at. Good. And Istio comes with a default set of some of those. And in Meshery, we don't want to displace, we want to take advantage of any work that people have done and make sure that the hard work that they've done of curating their boards and their panels can be taken advantage of in Meshery as they go to do performance tests and look at basically the same metrics, the same configured panels as they had in Grafana, they can look at in Meshery. Now, the small UI, the small bug that we're looking at here is, so we've got the connection, good. We're ready to import those, like this dashboard here. As I click to list out what boards I have to choose from, I don't see any, and I won't see any until I refresh the screen. And actually, there's a little bit of a bug that we saw there as well, is when I refreshed the screen, it looked like my Grafana connection was gone for a moment. Now, it went away and it got replaced with a prettier version of the URL, which is nice. So Shubham, there's a nuance to that cosmetic issue that we're talking about. But now that I've refreshed, if I click,
actually, I was typing something in the chat. I missed like.
I will, just so that I don't bore the crap out of everybody, I will document the behavior separately. But
Yeah, sure.
to finish off that other bug is that unless you refresh the screen, the import of the Grafana boards doesn't happen. But once you've refreshed, great, you can actually go through and get really specific about what boards you want to pull in, what panels you'd like to look at, select those. You can add those then to your ongoing panels that your ongoing metrics that you're tracking. This feature is really, the genesis of this functionality is really under the use case that when someone is running a performance test, that yes, that we're going to measure the throughput and the latency of their service and look at how their service is behaving under load. We also want to analyze how it is that their infrastructure, their nodes, and basically their infrastructure or any other metric that people want to track, that they can look at these statistics or these metrics in context of the performance test and see the effect on their workloads, see the effect on the service mesh, the overhead that it has, see the effect on their nodes. And so it's actually a pretty nice set of features that rarely gets demonstrated, in part because we've just got a little bit of user experience to improve about automatically connecting to Prometheus and Grafana. The thing is we already, Meshery already automatically discovers if there's a Prometheus or a Grafana available or running rather inside of the Kubernetes that it's connected to. Like, so Meshery is like this close to just automatically connecting to Kubernetes. It already discovers Prometheus and Grafana. We just need to like connect to them or present to the users saying, hey, we found these instances. Did you want to connect? And what a massively different experience people will begin to have with Meshery based on functionality that's been there for a really long time. So we're at top of the hour. We probably shouldn't engage in another discussion, but I'll stop talking, ask for feedback on that.
So feedback on automatically connecting Kubernetes or Grafana or Prometheus?
Yeah, I think, yes, all of the above. Like, feedback on the fact that there's a bug that you have to refresh the UI to get to, feedback on my ask of Ayush to help us do some deep linking, feedback on the notion that when we deploy, Naveen, when we deploy Istio, we are, and I don't know if Naveen's still on, but when we deploy Istio, we're not automatically, oh, he is there. Very good. We're not automatically, we're not taking that extra step to configure the exposure of Prometheus and the exposure of Grafana outside of Istio. We're forcing users to go do that manual step on the CLI. But if and that's just a simple, change in the Helm chart or, change in our Istio deployment. If we were to do that, I think VJ has already worked on, Naveen, I think you worked with VJ on the work to do mesh sync for discovering Prometheus and Grafana. So they're right there available to the UI. We just need in the UI to pick up on the fact that there is a Prometheus or Grafana available and just auto connect to them. Just make some assumptions that people would like to connect. And if they don't, they can remove those. But what a better experience it would be when people first load up Meshery. Meshery should be auto connecting to Kubernetes, auto connecting to Grafana. It should be discovering all that, automatically connecting, and people should just drop their jaw on the first time that they run Meshery, that they download Meshery CTL. It should download, automatically start Meshery, automatically pull up their web browser. They click to sign in, it automatically discovers Kubernetes, automatically discovers Grafana and Prometheus, connects to them. Shoot, it could very easily show them the fact that they have it pre-existing Grafana boards and stuff. Like, wow, wouldn't that be a delightful experience? Wouldn't people come back for more? I think so. And then we can live up to the little slogan that it was made with love.
Sorry, Lee. Like I will have to join another call from 8:30. Yeah.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I will jump.
And probably most everyone else does as well. Anyone? Thank you, Shubham. Any other final comments from people? Anything we missed critical?
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Could you just probably let me, I didn't understand the deep linking part.
Yeah, let me demo that. And before I do, I'll say, if anyone else needs to drop, don't feel bad. People have other meetings starting. So if not, please hang out. We'll look at the deep linking. All right. So great question, Shivai. Let me redemo that by, I'm just going to remove our Prometheus connection. So in our environment, we're connected to these things. We are not connected to Prometheus. Oh, but one is available. So I'd like to connect. So I'll go ahead and click to configure Prometheus. When I do, I'm taken to the settings screen. Good. But the issue is, and I'm taken to the metrics area. Great. That's where I should be because I want to configure Prometheus. There's a sub menu here though. And unfortunately, the deep linking only goes to the first level of menus. We need to go deeper.
Okay, so what you mean is that once say we are in the environment, that is where we are wanting to configure Prometheus. So right now what it is going is that it is going one level deep, that is going to the metrics part, but we want it to be a two-stage process so that it opens metrics/Prometheus, something like that. Right on. And since this is like we are using it on the same screen, we cannot even change the API, like the the URL, right?
I think I didn't quite understand what you said, but I get that you understand the issue, and you, I don't know if what we would end up doing is like,
what I meant was normally what we do is, for example, say if we have say in normal circumstances, when we have say two different tabs, if you want to go to a specific tab, you mention say the route for that. So I was mentioning about the route. I'm sorry to rephrase myself. But since we're not using that kind of a system over here, I guess it's to be done with the deep linking part.
Right. Yep. I think you're. Yeah.
Because the route remains the same, right? Which is localhost / your screen is actually a little tiny.
No. Yeah. No. Yep. Totally. That's why I'm pasting it here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're right. So the route being /settings, and then the deep linking system, if you will, that we've cleverly created is using anchors.
Okay.
And so, one other note here is that, so I've zoomed in, right, to make sure that everyone can see what's going on, and if you'll notice, there's something that's not zooming well, or at all.
Icons.
Yeah. So I'll screenshot that. But nice. All right. Anybody have anything else?
I just updated the PR to persistent.
Okay. Very good. I'm going to look at that just after the call. Alrighty, very good.
I'll
Dina?
say, yeah, it was good. This type of trials, we don't really need to care if it's going to succeed or not, but taking advantage of the moment that there are more than one, or there is more than one person, more than two persons, you kind of get the idea, or trying.
Right, yeah.
That's a good thing for having the meeting. Besides demoing being perfect, part of the development side.
Oh,
So-
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. As a matter of fact,
It was good. It was good. Don't take me wrong, but if it wasn't, if it was total failure, there's no problem either.
right.
Or if
Right.
it's not working, or things like that, it is a good opportunity to identify what I need to do, or what I need to set up for, not just for conference or workshop.
Yeah. Actually, I think when there are bugs, when there are issues, and you have to do troubleshooting live, actually, it's kind of nice because I think that a lot of people learn by watching someone else troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, all. We'll see you on the next meeting very soon.
Thank you, Lee. See you.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hey, Shivai.
Oh, is there a separate meeting going on
Hey,
over here right now? Or?
I don't think so. Let me check. Not one that I'm on. I was.
Actually, I'm sorry, I had left the tab open, but I saw someone joining.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I think this is the only. Well, I don't know how else to say it, but like only community meeting for today, and I
Okay.
don't have any others scheduled with other contributors today. So.
Okay. I'll just merge my commit today. I was just speaking to Ayush right now. So I'm just putting up the pull request right now on the